Yo, what's going on? What's happening? Some may say, man, this is old news. We was talking about this last month, and you late to the table, what I'm saying, with this news. And I'm like, yo, man, it doesn't make a difference whether it's old news or new news. I'm going to give you my opinion regardless. You know what I'm saying? And it's always going to be a message behind, my opinion that I give about whatever topic that I'm addressing. And in this particular case, I want to talk about the whole thing of the street rapper Jadakiss, part of the famous rap group called The Lox, being raised in a two-parent household, and at one point in time of his life, attending private school. And this is crazy how, I have my ear to the street, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Even though I live in a foreign country, I still keep up with, current events that go on in America. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's political, religious, social, or just overall, just American lifestyle, and American gossip or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I always got my ear to the streets, and it's crazy that this was swept under the covers, or swept under the carpet, like real quick. Like I didn't even hear about this. I just learned about this, like I said, a couple of days ago, when I was I looked up and looked at this Joe Budden podcast, a short of it, and there you had Jadakiss and his father on the couch. They was discussing, the whole coffee business that they got going on together. And his father was like, yo, Jadakiss doesn't like to talk about his past and how his upbringings, but he was raised in a two-parent household, and we sent him off to private school, and he attended some of college, and it shocked me. Here it is, this guy talking about cutting up bricks and all the rest of that stuff throughout all the years. Ever since I heard from the Lox and Jadakiss, the first time I heard from them which was the early 90s, off of, I think it was DJ Clue Desert Storm mixtape or something like that. They've always been talking about the streets. So you've been lying for the last 30 years, my man? And that's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? And not only do we need to critique and question Jadakiss about about his lyrics and how he was really living, we need to go further. Because most of your top tier rappers, believe it or not, came from a good background, a good upbringing. And that's real talk. Even though Biggie Smalls didn't have a mother and father, two-parent house, he wasn't raised in a two-parent household. He was raised by a strict Jamaican woman that sent his black ass off to Catholic school. He decided that he wanted to go get off the stoop, and go around the corner and deal with the knuckleheads that was at the bodega, the corner store, shooting dice and selling drugs. That was his decision. And when you look at Nas, yes, he was a dropout, but he was an advocate. He still is an advocate reader of books. And Jay-Z read books and still continues to do so. So a lot of our top tier rappers are what do they call? How do they say it? The Mount Rushmore rappers had a good education. Real talk. That needs to be acknowledged. Because what they rap about and what the audience hears and listens to, they think that that's the truth. And there are a lot of weak-minded people out there. And they think that what Biggie, as an example, and Jadakiss rapped about was real life. And oftentimes you'll see those weak-minded people live out that type of lifestyle. But the reality of it is when you sitting in jail for the things that these rappers lied about doing, you look like a fool. I don't understand why you can't be proud of, straight up, this only happens in the black community. How you can't be proud to tell people that you were raised by two parents and that you went to private school. Because the reality of it is nobody really thinks about it like this. It's obvious that the education that you were receiving privately in private school got you to another level. Like most people that can take you to another level. Like most people that went to private school, they become CEOs. Later on, they become CEOs. Owners of big businesses. They run big corporations, making multi-millions, if not billions of dollars per year. These are the people that we work for, that we clock in and out. They are the oligarchies of the world. That's real talk. It's crazy that when you think about it, the people that went to private school, they never discuss what they learned, what private education that they learned in private school. Never. It's obvious the type of education that people are getting in private school excels them in comparison to the public school education that we've gotten. That's real talk. Most people that, especially melanin recessive men and women, that receive a private school education, they go from that to college, they join fraternities, they become a part of secret societies like the Skull and Bones, and eventually move on to become politicians. They're lawmakers. They become judges. They're the ones that put your black ass in jail. They're the oligarchies of this world. They run the planet. So yeah, man, I don't get it. I don't get it. You talking about cutting up bricks, and let's move on a little bit. Like there's someone else that's in the locks. Yes, true indeed. He did go through some shit. He did go to jail. He did sell drugs and all the rest of that shit. But he came from a 2-parent household too, which is Styles P. Matter of fact, I don't know whether it was his mother or his father that's African. I just don't understand the black community. How we put everyone that's a drug dealer they got a rap sheet and criminal record, in other words, and has put in work in the streets, we put them on a pedestal. We admire them. We give them rewards. We give them awards at award shows. But the ones that did the right thing, that went to school, graduated from high school, went on to pursue a college degree, went on to college and graduated from college, got into their career. Now they're working, they're making 6 figures, and they did things the right way. They don't have baby mamas. They got a family. They're married, and no one, whether it's the wife or the husband, have children outside of their marriages, outside of their marriage. They did everything right. Those are the lame ones. Those are the uppity Negroes. Those are the ones that we don't want to be like because they're square. Not knowing when you're talking about sex, drugs, and violence, you think that you're not living in the square that they put you in, a box that you can't get out of. I just don't get it. I remember when I was in high school, man, my man Philip, I had a couple of friends like that, but my man Philip, his mom, when I used to go over his house, man, I used to love going over this man's house. Love going over this man's house, man. His mom was a nurse. She worked at Duke University. It's a hospital, Duke University Hospital. His father was an electrician. Both of them made decent money. Let me tell you something. Every time he would have a sleepover, I would come over there. I'm telling you, this is my word. For dinner, we would have buckets of Kentucky Fried Chicken, biscuits, mashed potatoes and gravy, macaroni and cheese. And then we had several different pizzas. all meat special, what was it? Meat lovers pizza. Pizza that just had vegetables on it. Another pizza that was, you know, it was like 4 or 5 pizzas. And this we're not talking about like just off of like one pizza place. It'd be like Little Caesars and then Domino's Pizza. This man had a whole basement to himself. I used to love going over this man's house. He had Sega Genesis. This is in the 90s. He had Sega Genesis and he had Super Nintendo. And they had games galore because it was him and his 2 brothers. The man had a room upstairs. Everybody had their own bedroom. You know, the younger brothers shared a bedroom. So when the younger brother, when they got older, Philip, the brother took over his room, so everybody had their own room, and they had built a room downstairs in a basement decked out for Philip. He had his own little personal room, weight training room, where he had weights. And they put their time and effort into their children, and you could see it every time you went there. Every time I spent the night. Matter of fact, I failed to leave this out. I forgot about this. About this. Not only was his father an electrician, but he also was a preacher. And they owned a family church that I used to go to for about a year or 2. While I was running away from home, Philip had a support system. And later on, when it was time for graduation in 92, Philip walked across that stage. I didn't. Philip went to North Carolina A&T, graduated. And he was one of the first, way before people were working at home. He was one of the first ones that was working at home for Wells Fargo. This is what happens when you have a mother and a father, a support system behind you. And that's nothing to be ashamed about. I just heard from him a couple years back. He had his own, he just got a house built. He's doing great for himself. There's nothing to be ashamed about as far as you coming from a 2-parent household and having it good. But in the black community, it's shunned upon. And it's crazy to me. That shit is crazy to me. You know, I know some of you all are going to use the cop out. Well, you know, Jadakiss, he did mention in one of his lyrics that, you know, he had 2-parent household and he went to such. Yeah, once or twice probably. How many times have he rapped about coke? Straight up. That's real talk. How many times has he rapped about crack and selling crack in the streets and shit like that? Styles P, I got to give it to him. You know what I'm saying? He balances the shit out. You know, he talks about, you know, selling drugs and all the rest of that shit, but he got what? Juices for life. Now he's on some holistic shit. And yeah, Jadakiss, he's on some next level shit too. I see him working out and shit. It's not enough though. And I'm not trying to tell that man what to do and what to rap about or whatever have you. The only point that I'm making is I'm just tired of this whole bullshit, this whole facade. Tell me what you really living like. Let your audience know that your children don't go to public school. Most of these rappers children don't go to public school. Most of these rappers live in nice neighborhoods. And they don't even play that shit. They don't even allow their children to listen to the lyrics or the songs that they make. But it's okay for your children to listen to it. It's okay for your children to buy the bullshit. Straight up. Which is crazy to me. Straight up. That shit is crazy to me. I tell my children all the time, man, you need to listen to me. You need to listen to your mom and your father. Because we're going to teach you, we're going to tell you right. And you should never be ashamed of your lifestyle. My children ain't never had meat ever in their fucking lives. They don't know what the fuck, they don't know what it's like waking up in the morning and eating cereal and you ran out of milk, so you had to pour water in it. They don't know what it's like to eat bologna sandwiches and all of the rest of that shit, government cheese. They don't know nothing about that. They don't know what it's like with the lights getting turned off and all the rest of that shit. They are living in a foreign country where the beach is walking distance. They just went today to get some coconuts. And it was like, yeah, you know, we stopped over to the mango tree and we saw monkeys going up the trees and this and that and so forth. If I ever hear any of my children talk about how they had a hard knock life, I'm going to knock them out. See, when you listen to DMX, I understood the reason why he rapped about what he rapped about, because that was what he was going through. He was a foster child. Ain't nobody love him. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have tattooed a dog on the back of my back and put his name Boomer on the back of my back, but I understood it. Because he said in his raps that the only friend that he ever had was a dog. Understood his plight. But it's crazy. Even though he was a hardcore rapper and all the rest of that shit, he still, in every fucking album, he said the Lord's Prayer. And even though I don't agree with, you know, his religion or whatever have you, I still respect him because he was real. He performed in front of thousands of people. And at the end of his performance, he said the Lord's Prayer and cried like a little baby. That's a man that kept it real. Real shit. We got a lot of rappers out here that are just fake as shit. Real talk. I'm glad that the J. Coles of this world exist. Well, he doesn't have a problem with talking about his life. The Kendrick Lamars. Straight up. You know, I really didn't like the direction that Joey Badass went, you know, but it is what it is. To be real with you, I was really never a Joey Badass fan. I was always a fan of Capital Steez. And when he passed away, it hurt me dearly. Because I always looked at Joey Badass. When I looked at him, I always looked at him and was like, yo, you're trying too hard to be on that metaphysical, spiritual shit. But this man, Capital Steez, is him. It's natural. Those are the type of people that we need in the hip-hop industry. But to be truthful with you, we need it. But those type of people get damaged easily and taken advantage of. I remember when I was younger, man, I had two sets of friends. I had friends that I can talk about, you know, Fist of the North Star and Gargo 13 and Street Fighter, all this Japanimation that I, you know, anime, you know, they call it anime now, you know, but Japanimation that I looked at, you know, video games and discussing different video games and shit, Metal Gear and, you know, Legend of Zelda, you know, all of the nerdy shit I could talk to them about. And then these friends over here, you know, I could smoke and drink it with them and hang out with them, but I could never bring those worlds together. It would be like oil and vinegar. And it got to the point where I was like, yo, I just got to be myself. And yeah, I drink and smoke, but for the most part, I left all that street shit alone. I was never that type of person. Criminal record, I got a hell of a criminal record. And you know what it's all on? It's drive my license revoked. Drive my license revoked, drive my license suspended. I've had my license for 7 years now. But prior to that, I was driving with my license while my license was revoked for 15. I've never been to prison. I went to jail for 2 weeks. And that was the only reason why I went to jail for 2 weeks, because my girl was trying to get up the bail money. And it was all about me driving while my license was revoked. In Raleigh, North Carolina, they would lock your ass up. I got a DUI in Mineola, but it wasn't like I failed a drug test or I blew, a pause. It was I did that, did blow and all that shit. No. It was because I refused the drug test, the sobriety test. Shit, it was cold as shit. It's snowing, and I'm like, yo, if I slip and fall, you're gonna say that I'm drunk. I'm not doing it. It was a refusal. So they was like, yo, we gonna just hit you with the DUI. I used to sell bootleg tapes. The worst that has ever happened to me with selling bootleg tapes is one time we was in Richmond. It was me and this other dude. We was in Richmond Greyhound bus terminal. They had the dogs out sniffing us and all the rest of that shit because they thought we was transporting drugs, because that's what, motherfuckers would do. They would get the drugs and, come down, go to New York, come down, get the drugs, come down south and sell it. So they had the doors on us, and then they went through our bags, and lo and behold, we had I know it had to be at least about 400 bootleg movies. One of the police officers pulled it out. This is the 90s at the time. Pulled out the bootleg tape of Titanic, and they was like, well, I know sure as hell Titanic ain't out right about now. So what you boys doing with this type of stuff? Because I know it's pirated. All right, so what we going to do here, it was good. Real talk. It's crazy how I'm saying this because this goes along with the video. My man at the time was going to North Carolina Central University, and he had his books inside the bag that had bootleg movies in it. So they was like, you boys go to college? And he was like, yeah. He was like, well, what we going to do here? We just going to take all your shit and send you about your way. I ain't never got in no big time trouble. Yeah, I sold some weed at college. You know what I'm saying? Well, who the fuck doesn't? Either you smoke the weed or you sell it. Well, if not, both. I ain't never been that type of person to be one of them coke boys. I ain't fucking selling on that. Man, ain't handing out fucking football numbers and shit. 56, 44, 22. Nah, I'm not doing none of that. I've always been a smart person, man. And to be real with you, man, if y'all get on my level, man, I got a whole layout, a whole new set of different videos where I'm dropping, talking about esoteric shit, metaphysical shit, and ships and all the rest of that shit. And trust and believe, if I'm talking about ships, I know what I'm talking about. Because hearing is believing, seeing is knowing. So I know what I'm talking about. But I can't talk about this type of shit because my audience, most of my audience ain't on that level. I always got to talk about the gossip. I always got to slip in the gossip. I always got to talk about Atlanta. Because that's what a lot of people like hearing. And if it weren't so, why is it that when I go to my Atlanta video that I recently did, and I'm going to do another one soon. It's the truth though. I made $150 off of that video. I got 15,000 views off of that video. When I talk about health, when I talk about improving yourself, self-improvement, discipline at the plate, man, I get probably about 2,000 views on that, and about $5 off each video that I do about health. And it's a shame. And we wonder why the fuck we fucked up as far as dealing with the black community. And this shit is going to have to change if we want to progress in life. As a collective. As individuals, yeah, but as a collective. It's going to have to change. Like, I can't listen to this man's music anymore. I never was a real Jadakiss fan anyway. I never was into the street shit. I mean, I listen to Mobb Deep and Nas. That's probably as far as I go. Wu-Tang, some shit like that. And even people such as Nas, Prodigy, he used to read Dr. York books and shit. Nas, Prodigy of Mobb Deep, and Wu-Tang, they was kicking. If it wasn't Dr. York shit, they was kicking that 5% nation. The nation of gods and earth shit. If I wasn't listening to that, I was listening to Tribe Called Quest, Native Tongues, De La Soul, shit like that. Because I want somebody to school me. I want somebody to educate me. I want to vibe and be on a frequency where I'm learning. I don't want to be on that vibe, on that frequency where it leads to self-destruction. But this is the truth though, man. Some of your favorite rappers, you thinking, oh man, shit. He about that life. No, he not. No, he not. Biggie Smalls went to fucking Catholic school. Jadakiss went to private school. Styles P had both parents. And one of his parents was an African. And I say that because you know how strict African parents can be. They all about getting your education and all the rest of that shit. So I say be proud of who and what you are. Because if Jadakiss would have came out and said, yo, this is how I was raised and this is the tip that I'm on and this is what I like talking about, I would have accepted that man for who and what he is. And that's that. You don't have to lie about who and what you are. Just be yourself. And that's what it's all about. That's the moral of this video. The moral of the story. Be yourself. Because if can't nobody accept you for who and what you are, then you don't need their acceptance overall. That plain and simple. I'm being me. I'm doing me. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. If you don't like what I do, yo, there's other channels. Tune into the other channels. Straight up. This shit is just like regular TV. If you don't like something, turn the channel. Turn to something that you like. Turn to something that you enjoy. Don't sit here and fucking look at me knowing that you don't like what I do and what I'm about. That makes you a cornball. But overall, man, just be proud of who and what you are, man. Because I can tell you, I was raised by a single parent. And man, when I used to go over other people's houses that had a mother and father, it was always heaven, man. Always heaven. I'll never forget, we had like a literature class. We was looking at, I think we had Reds. I don't know what it was, but it was like we was looking at Apocalypse Now with Charlie Sheen in it. I think that was Charlie Sheen. And, you know, we discussed it and shit, but you know, the teacher was like, you know, we discussed it in class or something. It was like, I don't know, it was like metaphorical and all the rest of that shit. I don't remember it, but we discussed it in class and we had to go home and look at it. You know what I'm saying? Look at the movie. So I went over this dude's house, and I'm gonna end it with this. I went over this dude's house, man. He stayed on the nice side of town. This man had, when I went to go over his house, this man had his own room, a pool fucking table, a big screen TV, and at the time, you know, it wasn't DVDs, it was a VHS tape. So we was looking at the Apocalypse Now, you know what I'm saying, in his room. I'm talking about a real pool table. And then he had a fucking tennis court right beside his house. The house, I walked in, the shit looked like a fucking mall. And after we looked at that movie, no lie, this is my word, because it was, I never forget, it was close to the end of the school year. So it was hot outside. He had a pool, right? It went up to like 10 feet, if I'm not mistaken. Diving board and everything. We was jumping off of his fucking roof into the pool. And the nigga, no lie, I'm not embellishing on the truth. I'm just remembering, straight up. Remembering this shit. Once we finished going swimming and shit, he was like, yo, man, I'm going to drop you off at home. Before I drop you off at home, I want to go make a run somewhere, whatever have you. This is in the 90s. He had he had his father's car. His father had a convertible Mercedes Benz and a fucking mobile phone inside the car. But it's crazy though. Sometimes these kids turn out right, while other times they'll be like Jadakiss, man. They want to, for some odd reason, they feel as though that their life is boring and they're missing something. And they've been too privileged, so they want to be out in the streets. Because this kid, no lie, the same one that I'm telling you about, that motherfucker started selling weed, and he started getting in a bad crowd. And I'm like, yo, man, you stupid. You got it good at home. Like, that's what people don't understand. You people that's out there that was raised a certain kind of way, that's what you don't understand, man. People such as myself that came from a single parent household, and there were times that I went without. I dreamed of living your life. You living a life, but you want to motherfucking be out in the hood selling drugs. Miss me with that bullshit. That shit is lame. Yo, kids, straight up, it's cool to be smart. It's cool to be nerdy. Real talk. Being out there in the streets and doing whatever the fuck that's gonna get you locked up, that ain't cool. Being in jail and saying I did my time and I put in it, that shit ain't cool. It's not. Doing things the right way and eventually marrying someone that you love and having kids and raising a family is the right way. Straight up. And that's something to brag about. Real talk. Other than that, I'm out.